Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have been given the impossible task of summing up Leo in one 4 or 5 minute speech.
And we have so much material. But let's start at the beginning. Searle and Louisa made no secret of the fact that after 2 boys, they were hoping for a girl. They had visions of a beautiful baby girl called Ruby. When out popped Leo, full of male testosterone from the second he was born. He was crazy, loud, and mashugana from day one, with a deep voice to match. Grandpa Selwyn was delighted to see himself in his final grandchild.
Leo was a messy, noisy, carefree young boy. From the time he took his first steps, he would wander around the garden, naked and covered in mud, with his curly blonde locks bouncing, singing Barry Manilow songs. He often wandered into our neighbours Susan and Jonathan's garden for a chat. They nicknamed him the Pikey next door.
Rexton Nursery followed, and then a few years later, a more, but not fully potty-trained Leo, started his journey at Newbury's, where he was always very happy. At parents' evening, the teachers used to comment how well-behaved, popular, and intelligent he was, with a maturity and understanding way beyond his years.
In fact, he never understood why his young age would be a barrier for getting him just what he wanted.
Once aged 5, when his baby laptop broke down, he searched on Dad's phone and saw a computer repairman listed and called him to make an appointment for him to come over. With his deep voice, he raised no suspicion.
The look on the guy's face when he rang the bell and introduced himself as having come to fix Mr. Good's computer, only to see a 5-year-old at the dining room table all set up with his own child's laptop, was one of complete disbelief.
Nothing seems to faze Leo, and he is never intimidated by anything. When asked to trial for an Arsenal Mini Youth Academy, he went in his Spurs kit. Remarkably, he still got in. This attitude has stood him in good stead because it's been a tough year for Leo, having to deal with a leg injury when all he wants to do is play football.
And whatever macho story Leo has told you all, let the real story be a message of warning to all of you. Wear ankle pads when you're doing yoga.
Leo is the most responsible and independent of all of us. When it's Mother's Day, he's the one organising us to get a card and present and reminding Max 100 times on the phone. His inbuilt alarm clock makes sure he's always up and dressed hours before everyone else.
Leo's Yammer friends probably know Leo as the class joker, who is quite cheeky and takes a few detentions in his stride. Little do you know this wasn't always the case. At Newbury's, in his first brushing in with school authorities, he was so traumatised at getting a timeout card that he wet himself. Not quite the debit accumulating land you know now.
Leo is loving, kind and considerate, and the life and soul of everything he does. He is absolutely 100% confident that he is number 1 in the family, and we let him all believe it. His sense of humour is legendary. It seems he was born laughing and making people laugh.
He's got swagger, but he's still a little softy at heart. Who wrote this speech? His best nights are planning for brotherly sleepovers. He will plan for hours which snacks we will have, get every pan out for popping popcorn in the kitchen while he chooses and downloads the totally inappropriate film we are going to watch.
He will then get cosy in his bed, which he has schlepped into my room, and just as the credits roll for the movie to begin, Leo is asleep and snoring. It's not just any snore either. It's a guttural, really should have had his adenoids out snore.
Leo might be kind, but this doesn't stop him from being annoying. This summer, I had just landed in Stansted after interning for 4 weeks in the, Adam wrote this by the way, in the decrepit depths of post-Soviet Eastern Europe. When I came home, all I wanted to do was to get into my bed and catch up on my mum's lost sleep. I opened the door, and to my horror, my bedroom is no longer my bedroom. Leo had transformed my room into his own personal gym. I can't even walk to my bed because the semi-broken cross trainer is blocking my path. My bed is covered in Sports Direct weights and smells of a 13-year-old boy who doesn't like to shower. Or brush his teeth.
He's joking. Leo's personal hygiene is a bit hit and miss, veering between non-existent and quite advanced. I remember feeling worried and genuinely scared when looking through my phone. I found photos of Leo's completely hairless, shaven arms. We still do not know why he did this, but when confronted he said, "Dad shaves his body hair, why can't I?"
After these photos were discovered, Adam and I grew suspicious and decided to investigate Leo's other personal photos. The picture of Leo's arms was just a drop in the ocean compared to the scarring photos we found of Leo's private parts. He was only 5 years old, but again, when confronted, he said, "Dad does it, why can't I?"
Whilst we're on this topic of Leo's body,
he has always had his admirers, some more welcome than others. Unfortunately for him, the most vocal admirer was a 70-year-old man on a Carnival cruise ship in Mexico.
Leo was at the innocent pre-embarrassed stage of his life, where he could strip off and not give a damn. But to be fair, he is still at that stage.
Anyway, this 70-year-old seized his opportunity and took naked pictures of him. Thankfully...
It's a true story.
Thankfully, there was a good American Samaritan called Jerry on board, who spotted the perv and informed us and the crew's security.
Max and I were both young and quite naive, but we were still extremely angry at this man, and we planned on finding him and smashing his camera. All we needed at that time was a responsible, strong father figure adult to help us out and help us vent our anger in a constructive way.
But where was Dad on that day?
As you can see from the photos, Searle was elsewhere, having left the cruise that morning with his friend Hilton, and had got so drunk having tequila slammers that they thought it was a good idea to gay crash a Mexican wedding.
When they returned to the ship later that evening, they weren't quite the figure of authority that was needed, having stolen some poor boy's Bob the Builder hat on the way back. See him over there, it's the kid on the left that's looking very frightened. In all seriousness, time for a few thank yous and special mentions. Thanks to Mission Pool for putting on such a lovely Friday night dinner. Woo! And to Uncle David